Sacramento. Hello and welcome to Round 7 coverage of Grand Prix Sacramento. I'm Brian David Marshall. There on your left, you see Kevin Cazzoli, someone who's been playing Magic since he was in middle school. That's 1995. So he's been playing for most of Magic's history, about 23 years. And he's up against Josh Utter-Leighton. Josh played for a long time, but not quite as long as Kevin Cazzoli here. He is, of course, the 2012, 2013 Player of the Year, 2016 Magic Online Champion, 5 Pro Tour top 8s, and of course, a Pro Tour Hall of Famer.
Josh here, no green mana. We'll see in his hand that he's also main decking Plummet. That's something we've seen throughout this weekend.
Yeah.
So if you're going to play some sealed deck, you have some Plummets, you're playing green, it's a card you might want to play.
So Walking Corpse followed up by a Basilisk here from Josh Utter-Leighton. He's got a Gargoyle Sentinel to sort of hold the board. You see, although Josh Utter-Leighton, you talked about having the Enchanters in his deck, it's Blanchwood Armor in Kevin Cazzoli's hand. As the premium aura, but ironically just the one forest right now.
Yeah, so that card looking pretty unimpressive right now in this game, but I imagine that's one of those cards that Kevin, if he's afraid to cast it because he doesn't want to get 2-for-1, or if it's just not quite as powerful as it could be later on in the game, that's the type of card he may want to pitch to something like Macabre Waltz, which he's also playing.
All right, well, the Basilisk is just going to continue to peck away here. And Josh has fallen to 14.
We'll see Kevin also main decking a Mind Rot here. We've seen that card be pretty powerful to get the last 2 cards out of somebody's hand throughout the weekend. And there we see the splash in Josh Utter-Leighton's deck, a Banefire.
You're like, what could he have? Why is he playing red? It's probably a Banefire. And here, I love this, by the way. I love when players are willing to just use their Banefire as a removal spell on curve. It scales. It doesn't have to be the card that wins you the game on the last turn. Sometimes you just need to deal with a 2-2. Sometimes you need to deal with a 3-3. You know, just kill something sometimes.
That's one of the reasons why Banefire is such a a powerful card, is because in the later stages of the game, it just wins, whereas earlier it acts as a very efficient removal spell.
Yep. Here you see Gallant Cavalry come down from Josh Utter-Leighton. Again, those 2-for-1s we keep talking about all weekend long.
Yeah, those 2/2 bodies are very good at trading. A lot of the time you can put yourself in a position where you're able to go wide and use cards that are able to enhance the power and toughness of your entire team.
Second forest here for Kevin Cazzoli, by the way. And he is just going to lay his cards down, pass the turn with 4 mana up. You see that Plummet we were talking about earlier. Now, I'm assuming that's not, we saw Plummet earlier, and it was the only removal in Neil Oliver's deck, other than maybe one Strangling Spores. What's the removal situation in here for Josh Utter-Leighton?
Josh Utter-Leighton has a decent removal suite going on. He has Hieromancer's Cage, he has a pair of Luminous Bonds, he has the Banefire, he has a Rabid Bite, and he has that Plummet. Josh is the type of guy who likes to play every removal spell he can get his hands on, and then just engineer a board wherein he can gain a pretty nice advantage. This is very nice for Josh.
Wow.
Yeah, Valiant Knight combos very well with Gallant Cavalry. This card is going to make both of those knights into 3/3s, and then it's also threatening to create a massive, massive, massive attack on the following turn, wherein it seems like he's attacking for 9, but if he activates that Valiant Knight, that can turn into 18 points of damage.
Yeah, and has the mana to do that next turn. So just every attack phase becomes pretty harrowing for Kevin Cazzoli. But I think we're going to see Lich's Caress take out, the Valiant Knight. We'll just get everything back down to a normal size.
Delicious Caress, a card that we knew was good coming into the weekend, but every time we've seen it played, it's just lived up to its power level.
Yeah.
As a sorcery, it's a card that you don't know if it's going to have that much impact, but the uncommons and rares are strong enough in this set where that's the type of common that really, really shines, especially in a format like Sealed.
There you see Gift of Paradise in hand for Josh Layton. We talked earlier. There's a little bit of a enchanter theme here. All right, in come the two Vigilant Knights. And Kevin is going to offer to trade a Walking Corpse for the real half. Now we're going to see Gift of Paradise on a Plains. Gain 3 life for Josh. And now he has 3 mana. And he's going to play his Basilisk. Okay.
Yeah, Basilisk, a card that's not particularly exciting, but the fact that it can trade up so nicely in this format.
Oh, there's a Psychic Symbiont. And Kevin's like, I would like to draw a card. I would like you to discard a card.
And I mean, we've already spoken at length about how good this card is, especially in a format like Sealed, but it's basically just a 3-for-1 all tied together. You get a 3/3 flyer, your opponent discards a card, you draw a card. It's such a massive advantage, and this is a card you're happy to take very early, despite it being 2 colors when you're drafting, and in Sealed deck, it's a card that you're going to jump through some hoops to play. Here we see Kevin actually splashing blue for access to this Psychic Symbiont.
Does he have any other blue cards that he's looking to splash, or is that just his only one?
I believe that's his only one.
Yep. That is, that's his only splash. Interesting.
And now, Josh, his hand must be pretty powerful because here he's discarding a Rabid Bite to an opponent who's tapped out when he has a Death Touch creature on the battlefield.
I think, he wants to hold on to that Plummet. He just drew a land for the turn, I believe. He's got Gasbark Twins. Yep, and Kevin's just going to upgrade his Doom Dissenter for a 2/2 zombie. And there's the Gasbark Twins. Just gigantic.
Josh, only 2 cards left in hand now. Imagine this is the turn Kevin's going to want to Mind Rot.
Yeah, he's been sitting on that Mind Rot for quite a while. Let's see, what else does he have going on here? Looking at Kevin's list.
Hey, Kevin has some really nice cards in his deck.
Yeah, he's going to start with the Mind Rot. He's going to get Plummet and Hierophant. Wow, and a Cage. 2 of the removal spells just taken out here out of Josh's hand. Leaving him playing off the top now.
And it looks like Kevin also has a Bone Dragon in hand. So, really nice follow-up here for Kevin. Though, the twins on Josh's side of the table are really, really big and scary.
All right, here's Bone Dragon. Oh, no. He can actually put Blanchwood Armor on his Symbiont. He's got how many forests?
He's got 3.
Yeah. And he's got a 6-power flyer. Wow. Pretty good against an empty-handed opponent. What is Josh going to do here? Like, well, I was planning to cage it or plummet it or do any of those things, but instead, he's going to attack. Look at this. Josh sends in everything. Animates the Sentinel.
And that was a dangerous situation for Kevin because there, Josh, any pump spell really could have just killed Kevin on the spot. I think Kevin's down to 3 now, yeah.
Wow. So, and then just a land. Josh plays it out. So there's another forest. So we go to 7-7. And a Bone Dragon.
And I like that attack a lot from Josh because he prevents the game from turning into a losing race. Now Kevin forced to play defensively. Kevin obviously cannot attack here because then he'd just be dead on board.
All right. Passes the turn back to Josh.
Josh with a lot of live cards. He draws a Luminous Bonds and the game ends.
What was the draw? Josh looked like a live card. I mean, it looked like it was not just a land. Couldn't quite make out what it was. Just going to attack with the Gaspark Twins. And Josh is going to put, Kevin's going to put both creatures in front. It's an Oresco Swiftclaw. I mean, pretty good right now. Here's a Centaur Courser.
Yeah, Josh
And
perhaps
Kevin
being
is just very precarious. Kevin's in a very precarious position all of a sudden. All right. There's a Bristling Boar. And this is the thing, about these green-white decks. They just have a lot of creatures.
Yeah. This is funny. Each of them just keep drawing live cards. And, Josh needs to get that one extra body on the table because right now he'd only be getting in for 2. Kevin's at 3. And it would not be a good board for him.
He's thinking about just forcing the action with the Bristling Boar.
Yeah, the problem is that Kevin has enough cards in his graveyard where he could reanimate that Bone Dragon after trading with the boar. Yeah.
There you get a look at Bone Dragon. Costs 5. Exile 7 other cards. Returning to the battlefield tapped. I go through all that effort. I would like it to be untapped. I feel very...
I mean, you're already getting a 5/4 flyer for 5. That's a deal.
Just someone was hurt by a untapped creature once in R&D, and they're just making the rest of us suffer for that.
I think the major issue it has or the reason it has a clause like that is because they don't want people to use a removal spell on it and then attack their opponent and have their opponent just return it back to the battlefield ready to block right away.
That's what I would like.
Yeah. Take Vengeance. A sorcery, so not quite as warm with it. But yes, that's another reason why it being tapped could be relevant. You could tap down things with Star Crown Stag and then take Vengeance them as well. It's a nice
here's
trick.
Oaken Form.
Oh, and Josh could just go for it this turn, and I think he'll win.
Yeah. So now he gets all of his creatures to greater 3 power or greater. 3 blockers from Kevin Cazzoli. Unless he has an answer, he doesn't. Josh Utter-Layton is going to take that game. He got mind rotted into oblivion there, but he'd already stuck his Gaspark Twin, so he was able to really force the action there on Kevin Cazzoli.
Yeah, really nice all-out attack by Josh there. The turn after his hand was mind rotted away, and that Bone Dragon had come down. It put Kevin in a situation where Kevin couldn't be cracking in for 6 with his Blanchwood Armored Symbiont, and as a result, Josh was given the time he needed to rebuild a board. And once he had more bodies than Kevin did, each of which had 3 power, he was able to just get there.
How do you like Oaken Form in general?
I've seen it played a lot more this weekend than I have played with it.
Sure.
But it seems fine.
Yeah. Okay. Let me go. We're going to head down to the floor. You can see Rich Hagon standing there. Hey, Rich, tell us what's going on at that back table.
Okay, well, first of all, the front of the back table, that's John Stern against Thiago Saporito. They're done. Saporito won 2-0. He had a very streamlined black-white deck. We saw him earlier in the day. John Stern falls to 6-1, Saporito 7-0. Basically, Stern hit his 3rd colour of mana on turn 5 in game 1, by which time he was a long way behind, and Saporito just needed a little bit of removal. He found a little bit of removal. That was game 1, and game 2, Stern's deck didn't cooperate at all. So that's done. Saporito 7-0, and amongst the leaders still undefeated. Middle table, that's Ben Hull on the right of screen as you look against Steve Rubin. Rubin had ramp early on, which is obviously what you want in a green-white deck, but didn't really have a way to push that through. Got an Angel of the Dawn down, and that against an army of 2/2s looked like it might get it done, but then back comes Hull. Lich's Caress stabilized the board, got rid of the Angel, and then Hull got to 7 mana. 7 mana is his sweet spot. First of all, in combat, Chromium comes down for 7 mana, untap. Here's Meteor Golem, away goes your best permanent, and from there, hoovered up for Ben Hull. So Hull leads Rubin 1-0. Back table, this is Sam Black with blue, white, green against another 3-color player, Chase Wilson, green, red, and white. Black had Herald of Faith down, but it wasn't doing a lot against 2 giant spiders, 2/4 with reach. Both of them teamed up to mean the Herald of Faith wasn't that effective. And then Angel of the Dawn for Chase, that was very effective. And really without doing an awful lot, Chase took game 1, and he is looking pretty strong in game 2. So that's what's going on the back tables.
Thanks, Rich. That was great. Really surprised to see John Stern pick up a loss with that deck, but I guess, when you have this really, a lot of expensive high-end creatures, you can find, some of those sealed decks that, what you talked about, that idea of like the tempo versus card advantage. And, really, John Stern's deck has a lot of card advantage, but, Thiago Saporito is able to tempo him out before he got to that point.
Yeah, Thiago's deck seems aggressive, streamlined. It seems like exactly the type of deck that you want if you're going to attempt to beat somebody like John Stern. I'm sure Thiago is not happy to be playing against a deck that good, but if he was going to be, that's the type of strategy he'd want to be on.
Yeah, and if those of you that didn't watch John Stern's deck last round, he had a Lathless, he had a Nicol Bolas, he had a Banefire, and he had a Tezzeret.
Those are good.
Yeah. yeah.
So we were talking about Oakenform.
Yeah.
And that's a card that I think is better in decks that have inexpensive flyers. It's better against people that aren't playing blue.
Oh, yeah.
I think that, if your opponent has access to cards like Disperse and Totally Lost, which you can pick up quite late, and they get sideboard in additional copies, a card like Oakenform gets quite a bit worse. But this is definitely the kind of card that can just steal a game completely by itself.
And
you put it on a Child of Night, you can outrace aggressive decks very easily. You put it on a Falcon, it can even steal a game that way.
We haven't seen a ton of blue in this sealed format, right? We, even though you were talking about blue-black being something that performed very well based on a lot of people's spreadsheets and data collection about the sealed format, we haven't really seen that. We've seen a lot of green. And that just is a card that really does let you go over the top of the other green creatures.
If you're just looking to be bigger, then it's quite good. And even you put it on a Colossal Dreadmaw, suddenly that's a body that nobody can tango with.
We've seen that happen. We saw a 9/9 Colossal Dreadmaw. Yeah. So Josh Layton looks content with his 7, but Kevin going back to the well here. And he's going to see if he can find 6 cards he can get a win against the Hall of Famer with. He's enjoying his time in the feature match area here. You see a big smile on his face.
I thought he played the first game really well also.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And Josh is just an exceptionally polite person to play a game of Magic against. If you're if you're going to play against one of the best players, I mean, they don't come much
more cordial.
Nicer than Josh Layton. I mean, ferocious competitor, but someone who's a lot of fun to play with, and is really, is not there to make anyone not have a good time. You know what I mean? Like, other than the part where he wants you to lose.
Oh, well, he absolutely enjoys winning, but that's part of being an ambitious and competitive human.
So does he have a hand he can work with here?
It's going to be rough. It's a 1-lander with a Rejuvenator. I mean, he could try to get lucky.
He does have a Doomed Descent or 2, but he's like, no, you know what? I think that's correct.
Yeah, I would mulligan there also.
And these games are not as beatdowny as a game of draft can be. You have a little bit more time to claw your way out from a mulligan. Maybe even things up with a card like Mind Rod, or find some, I don't know if he's got a Dryad Green Seeker or anything like that in his deck.
He does.
So, something like that is a card that can really unmulligan you pretty quickly.
That's absolutely true, especially when you're playing against somebody like Josh, where the majority of his removal spells are cards like Luminous Bonds, so they're not going to get a Green Seeker off the table, and that can continue to generate that advantage. And if he's able to only have 2 lands in his opening hand with a Green Seeker and then use that to get more lands while drawing more cards, he can undo this mulligan quite quickly.
So really, he just wants to see Forest, other land, Green Seeker.
Oh, yeah.
In this 5-card hand. That would be ideal.
Beautiful.
All right. Let's see if Kevin Cazzoli can find 5 cards that he wants to play with here. I see a Druid of the Cowl. I see 2 lands. And he's going to keep pushes. And we are underway, with noting Kevin chose to play here. All right, well, there's a Forest. That's going to unlock Druid of the Cowl. He's going to have access to 4 mana here on turn 3.
Yeah, nice start for Kevin on a mulligan to 5 here.
Okay. Very nice.
Yeah, and that 2-headed zombie, I mean, if Josh plays a blocker, it's not going to be good enough. So Josh is at least a pair of turns behind being able to block this 2-headed zombie, and he may be forced to use a removal spell here.
Yeah, it holds, perfect place for Luminous Bonds. And that's exactly what Josh does. But, okay, well, you know what? Kevin now is at a point where he's got Josh's first big threat covered with a Lich's Caress. He's got 5 mana. And a Lich's Caress. And there's Centaur Courser. So he's going to be able to keep anything going here against Josh. Now, Josh could go, he's going to go Gallant Cavalry. He also has Banefire. And when your opponent is kind of really thin on cards, sometimes I'm pretty happy to just use a Banefire on a Centaur Courser there.
Yeah, I mean, when your opponent's on the play and they've mulliganed down so they're 2 cards below you, it behooves you to take as many 1-for-1 trades where you're trading one of your cards for one of their cards as possible. Eventually, the game's going to get to a point where you have action, they don't have any left, and it's card advantage you've created before the game even started.
All right, there's the Vigilant Baloth. Both players have that in their deck, but Josh has his on the board.
It's a pretty nice one.
Yeah, and it is going to, die to Lich's Caress. Kevin's going to gain 3 life, but no real attacks here, not with the 2/2/2 Vigilant creatures there. Wow, look at how many cards in hand here for Josh or Layton. Just so far ahead in terms of cards here. And there's the Bristling Boar. Also a really nice card to put an Oaken Form on.
That is absolutely true.
Can only be blocked by 1 creature at a time. Looks like Angel of the Dawn in hand there for Josh Utter Layton.
Yeah, which is another very nice one.
Now, is that a card? Yeah, he's just going to fire that off here. Gets a nice little boost to his team. All the blocks are terrible for Kevin now.
Yeah, suddenly Kevin's looking at a situation where he's going to be trading his Courser with half of a Cavalry if he's trading it at all. Or he's just taking a ton of damage here, 11 damage, just dropping him all the way down to 12 from 23.
And I love this card. Also, you just get to keep your curve going and get to keep developing your board. Then you get to untap and you have this 3/3 flyer. I think people just, it's a card that people can underestimate sometimes. And another Lich's Caress, not Kevin Cazzoli though. He's get that flyer out of here.
Rubbing the hands together, putting them on it.
Not dead yet.
Lich's Caress actually an even trade for that Angel in every way. The Angel added 3 points of power to the table, and it did prevent the boar from trading, though.
Yeah, you see a couple of lands, a Plummet, and a Banefire in hand for Josh Utter Layton.
Yeah, Josh in this game may be trying to put himself in a position where he never leaves himself with only 2 cards in hand, one of those being the Banefire. I don't think he wants to find himself getting his most powerful cards mind-rotted in this game.
So let's see if he plays a land. Yeah, he does not play a land here.
Yeah, despite having the Banefire in hand, chooses not even to play a land there. I like that play a lot from Josh. Recognizing how far ahead he is and thinking about the ways in which he might lose the game.
All right, Reclamation Sage is going to take out Luminous Bonds. And now he can get the 2/4. He said, okay, you want to block with both your creatures here? That's fine.
Josh does not.
No interest. All right, and the Menace Zombie gets in. Ooh, more land for Josh, but now he can actually just deploy one of these. Just kind of keep 2 lands in his hand until he feels clear of that Mind Rot.
And Josh may even just want to Banefire this 2-headed zombie right now.
That's certainly what he's thinking about, right?
Like he's definitely far ahead on cards, but a lot of those cards he's drawn have been lands this game.
All right, instead just plays his 7th mana. All right. In comes the zombie. Josh is down to 11. All right, there's a Basilisk. Daggerback variety. And Kevin is, he's ahead on board here.
By quite a lot, and the Reclamation Sage has produced some degree of card advantage for Kevin also.
It looks like we are going to see the Banefire here. Oh, wait, or does he have a Gaspark Twins? Just overkills just to make sure that there's not a Titanic growth there.
Yeah, once the Banefire is that big, the damage can't be prevented, can't be countered.
All right, so a little bit of both players now just kind of stalled out here. Be curious if, Josh went really old school, recollect my Banefire. Oh, there's a Star Crowned Stag. That's already won one card of the match award this weekend.
And I imagine it may win some more. I mean, this is one of the commons in the set that can really take over a game by itself.
I like the way Josh has just been, managing his hand here.
It's odd because if we had to pick a card of the match so far here for Josh, I can't think of a single card that was particularly powerful for him. It's just all been gentle maneuvering, playing mediocre commons and uncommons.
Yeah, there he is. Shoves the 2 knights in. Forest is the nomination from the hand picker. Yeah, and Kevin's going to take 2 there. Blocks one of those knights, and there's the Mind Rot. Kevin just drew it.
Yeah, and here Josh really going to get rewarded here. You see he has that Hieromancer's Cage and that Plummet in hand, 2 really powerful cards.
And really here we see the versatility of Forest.
Yeah.
Because he can both play it to cast his spells and discard it to Mind Rot.
Yeah.
Very, very, very versatile card. Also, Plains is really getting overlooked in this equation. But wow. So Josh been playing Magic for a long time. He is he knows how to play once he's seen something like a Mind Rot or a Stupor or one of those cards.
Yeah, and I really like this from Josh because from very early on in the game, he has started holding those 2 lands. He recognized that was a situation that was going to come up because they were going to be in one of these situations where they're both drawing off the top. And, foreseeing how the game was going to play out, playing around that in such a way, that's what makes him a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, Satyr Enchanter now for Josh Utter-Layton.
And he has a decent number of enchantments. Right now he's only played the bonds, right?
He might have a new... he's going to play Gift of Paradise. I thought he might have had a Hierophant's Cage as well.
I believe he does.
Oh, wow.
But he's probably going to want to save that for something like a Bone Dragon or some type of threat that's actually like board breaking. Right now, Kevin's board, not really impressive enough.
I also like that Josh just has not put that Star Crown Stag in anything that resembles Risk whatsoever. And now another Daggerback Basilisk, this time on Josh's side of the table.
Yeah, once they get to the stage of the game where, they're really, looking for those final cracks of damage, if Kevin is able to draw some gigantic, awesome blocker, Josh is going to get rewarded a lot for having protected that Star Crown Stag and not simply had it trade for a Druid of the Cowl or a Reclamation Sage after it tapped down a Basilisk.
Yeah, he's been pretty content to just whittle in a little bit every turn. And now keeping his Enchanter and his Stag safe. So Basilisks are going to trade. Reclamation Sage is going to trade. And the Druid is just going to bounce off the Knight. But now Josh has got a clear window for that Starcrown Stag to start attacking. Oh, here's Colossal Dreadmaw. And that's something that perhaps belongs in a cage. I think Josh might decide here.
Yeah, and Josh, just with a wealth of answers here, though. He has that cage, which is going to draw him a card thanks to the Enchanter, and he even has this Stag, which could just take this Dreadmaw completely out of the equation.
Yeah, he is going to go for the enchantment here. Gets to draw a card. He's going to remove the Colossal Dreadmaw. Rewarded with an Oresco Swift Claw as his draw. Yeah, taps the mana creature. And yeah, he gets in for 7 here. There's a Druid of the Cowl. There's the Swift Claw. And Kevin is going to have to find something that is not in his deck. Shows 2 lands to Josh Utter-Layton. Josh Utter-Layton through to day 2. He's at 6-1. Kevin Cazzoli's still alive. He's 5-2. He could win this last round and still make it to day 2. So for his wife watching at home, don't fret. He's still alive. Or I don't know which way you're rooting actually. I don't know what is on the to-do list for tomorrow, but
yeah, brunch is fun.
one more match win and he gets to play on Sunday and draft, which is really what you want to do when you come to one of these. Seal deck's fun. I enjoy it, but really what you're thinking about is I want to draft.
Oh, I love Sealed Deck. I love it. Makes me feel like I'm at the public pool with a starter deck and some packs trying to make something happen.
So give me we got an update from Rich, and then I'll let you think about a card of the match when we get on with Rich. Rich, what do you got for us?
Okay, so I've been steaming. I was about to go on air and just go berserk about neckwear on stream. I just hate wearing neckwear. It's all constricting. It feels awful. I was really going to go for it. And then in the Steve Rubin match, I discovered I couldn't do any of that because he has Ajani. And Ajani is an adversary of Tyrants. So I can't do that. But what I can tell you is that Steve Rubin, with his Ajani, won game number 2. And then, most unfair on poor Ben Hull. Game number 3, Ben Hull has Duress. Takes away Ajani, fantastic.
I don't get it.
But
I don't get that joke, Rich.
But I didn't think this was a conversation. But unfortunately, yes, he takes Ajani away. But Steve Rubin has Recollect.
Wow.
And Ben Hull knows this, so he's just looking at it well, I guess I take Ajani, but back it comes, Recollect, down comes Ajani again, pump, 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 pump. Thanks very much. Steve Rubin defeats Ben Hull 2-1. Steve Rubin up to 7-0, Hull at 6-1. Finally, back table, Chase Wilson defeats Sam Black pretty handily. Sam kind of controlling deck. He's got that Arcane Encyclopedia, bit of card advantage here and there as well, elsewhere in the deck, and just really was never given that opportunity. Chase Wilson didn't do an awful lot, but didn't really have to. So Chase Wilson, 7-0. Steve Rubin, 7-0. And earlier in the round, super fast, Thiago Saporito, 2-0 over John Stern. And
which is pretty amazing. Just to ask you a question, Saporito's deck very low to the ground and fast.
It's black-white, and it's one of those decks that is going to reliably put out a 2-2 on turn 2, and maybe it makes it a 3-2 on turn 3. Nothing super spectacular, but it's going to go 2, 3, 4 pretty much every time he shuffles up and deals. And so against that, Stern playing 3 colors. I say got to turn 5 before he hit his 3rd color in game 1, and game 2 the deck didn't cooperate at all. So Saporito just playing fundamental Magic with a fundamental core set.
All right. Thanks, Rich. That was great. All right. So it's on you now. Jake Van Lunen, what's your card of the match?
I'm going to have to say my card of the match there is Satyr Enchanter. And I know it's odd, but it was the most impressive card it played in that match. And there was really nothing impressive played in that match at all from Josh's side. And I think this speaks volumes to just Josh Utter-Layton. Can he be the card of the match? Can we use his pro player card? Because this Satyr Enchanter, it was a creature that also generated multiple cards for Josh in that last game. But what won that match for Josh was Josh. It wasn't any of the cards Josh drew. It was the way in which he played them. And
Sure.
That's a pretty amazing thing to watch.
And this is something you talked about. It's not like there are any bad cards that Josh played because of this card. He didn't try to build an enchanter, or what we would think of as an enchantress deck previously, usually, but instead just play these good cards and then managed to eke a couple of extra cards out in a game that was kind of like really sagging in that mid stage of the game for both players. So great job by him, and a card that I'm certainly excited to try playing with more. I know we have more Magic to show you, so don't go anywhere. We got a couple brief messages, and then Jake and I will be right back. Hello and welcome back to the booth. I'm Brian David Marshall here with Jake Van Loon. We got some time walk magic for you here in round 7. Let's head down to the floor and see what we have in store for you. There you see on your left, Steve Guillerme against Mike Sigrist. Mike Sigrist, of course, one of the most dominant players on the Pro Tour the last couple of seasons. Going back a little while now. 3 Pro Tour top 8s. Most recently was 5th at Pro Tour Ixalan earlier this season. 9 Grand Prix top 8s. Steve Guillerme is a level 2 judge who's been playing since Ice Age. And when they were talking to Megan, Mike said, "You were judging when I was learning how to play back in Boston." So these guys know each other pretty well in that regard. And you see Mike Sigrist is gone 1 drop, 2 drop, Vampire Neonate, and Dryad Greenseeker.
Yeah, 2 cards that match up really well against the Faishino Pyromancer there on the other end of the table.
Yeah, not so much against the Bogart Brute, but there's a Courser, Centaur Courser, and that just needs a little bit of help here to maybe take down a Brute. And let's see. Oh,
Ooh.
Is that Sigil Sword of Valoran?
It
Foil?
is.
Foil, no less? Oh, but Mike Sigrist is like, oh, whatever. I got your card advantage right here. I'm going to draw a swap with this Dryad Greenseeker.
And Mike Sigrist, I imagine a Dryad Greenseeker is directly up his alley.
Yeah. Oh, look at this. And he's just digging main phase here. Or digging before his draw step, I should say. So he draws another land.
I mean, you don't want to draw a land for your turn, do you?
No. Oh, and you know what? It looks like I see a little dinosaur in his future.
Yeah, that Runic Armasaur.
Yeah.
It's got a big butt.
Yeah, and it also has an interesting, anytime, in terms of, a little bit of card advantage later in the game if your opponent starts using abilities. Oh, here's a card you love.
I'm a big fan of Fel Spectre.
So Fel Spectre is going to force Steve to discard a card. It's going to lose a life, too. Whenever you discard, you lose life with that.
Yeah, it's kind of the right size and ability for its cost. It's the kind of card that gets a lot worse when your opponent has a Greenseeker in play.
Yeah.
Which Steve just drew a Spectre of his own. So his will not be quite as strong.
Mike Sigrist just does all the abilities here. The Greenseeker, the Vampire Neonate for later on. And now, Bogart Brute's like, you're going to have to block with 2 creatures. He's like, well, no, I just need to keep your knight at bay for now. I'm just going to block that. You're not really getting any big advantage on the board. You can't not have that knight come into play attacking.
Yeah.
Which would be really nice sometimes. Wow. What is this, like 4 cards that Mike has drawn off the Greenseeker already? Wow. Very impressive. Making that card look good.
Yeah, I said Mike Sigrist would love a card like that, but a card like that also loves a Mike Sigrist. Mike is father to twin girls.
Yeah.
He and I have had conversations about how much we've watched Moana. Gnaws away at our soul.
All right, in comes the Centaur Courser. And there's Runic Armasaur.
And this is kind of an interesting place for Mike because he's leaving open this 2 mana. It looks like he's looking to simply activate his Neonate, but he has a Titanic Growth in play. And this in hand, rather. So this is the type of turn where he could really get his opponent to just absolutely walk into that pump spell.
You get to disguise the pump spell pretty well by having something other perfectly reasonable thing to do with your mana.
Absolutely, yeah.
So he's going to put the Fell Spectre and the Vampire Neonate in front. And there you see the Titanic growth. And, wow, okay. Mike Sigrist has survived the worst that the Sigiled Sword could offer in the first couple turns here.
And the Screen Seeker has been generating huge advantages for him. Look how many extra cards he has right now. He's been happy to just trade things off.
Yeah, just not his Screen Seeker.
Yeah.
All right, so there's a Manolith. So, any color open to Mike Sigrist. So is he splashing for anything? Oh, yeah, he is. He is. He's got a Victus Asmati.
That's a nice one to splash
Dire,
for.
yeah.
6/6 flyers are good, especially when they destroy whatever you want them to.
All right, so Steve's trying to figure out what he's doing here.
And the sword, often late game, kind of creating its own body to equip over and over again. When the opponent has a more defensive stance and has a bigger board than you do, the card is not at its best.
All right, well, there's the Fell Spectre we talked about. And, oh, shockingly, Mike has a Forest to discard. Yep, and now he starts going to work a little bit here with the Vampire Neonate, gaining some little incremental, like, life total gains. Starts to nibble away at Steve's life total. And now he's just locked into the mode of doing it on upkeep.
And Mike, he may be forced here to use a card like Lich's Caress on that Fell Spectre. The fact that Steve has the Fell Spectre in conjunction with that Sigiled Sword of Villeran could generate a pretty big advantage over the coming turns, and I think Mike wants to make sure that he doesn't just lose to that.
Well, he can just also continue to block the knight every turn, right?
Oh, well, the Spectre will be the one with the sword on it, and then he could attack with the knight, but the Spectre will just saw in tons of damage.
Sure. All right, well, there's the Vine Mare for Mike Sigrist. Card we've seen quite a bit of.
Yeah, a card that's been really strong, too.
I don't think we've quite seen a red-black deck, certainly through our matches anyway.
I don't think we have either.
I talked to a couple people, and they were talking about how the red does not really match up well. The red removal doesn't really match up well for sealed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a card like Shock, just tremendous in this draft format, whereas you're playing sealed. Doesn't quite do as much. Still a very good card that's going to make your deck 100% of the time it's on color, but...
So there you see, Centaur Courser eats the Knight token, but the Fell Spectre does get in. There's a Viashino Pyromancer. Again, whittling down the life total of Mike Sigrist. And he's going to start climbing back up again a little bit with that Vampire Neonate. And what is Mike going to do here? Draws for his turn. He would really like to see his Victus Asmati.
Yes, he would.
Oh, he's got a Lich. He still has that Lich's Caress, so. Right, he may end up using that just on the flyer here. Wow.
It's a bit dangerous, though. I mean, you never know what Steve could draw off the top. Though Steve is stuck on 5 lands, so...
I mean, Mike's at 6, right? He can't... He's got to do something here.
I mean, the Vine Mare could trade with a pair of ground creatures, but that doesn't really do too much for Mike.
Well, it looks like he's thinking about offering that up.
Yeah, I think if he does make an attack, he's probably sending in the Courser and the Vine Mare. I'd be surprised if just the Vine Mare came
No,
in.
it is
I like
just the Vine Mare.
Okay.
And Steve's like, well, you know what? I'm not willing to give up that many creatures to kill that, so I'll just take it here. He goes to 8.
That's incredible for Mike that he has that sense of the game. You know, when you're kind of like sitting in a game and you're like feeling it out, like how will my opponent choose to do things?
Okay. Oh, well, there's an Epicure of Blood.
Oh, wow. And that turns this Neonate into a pretty impressive card where it's actually draining Steve for 2 while also gaining Mike a life in the process.
All right, so I think that was a Rise from the Grave that was just drawn by Steve.
You know, this creates an interesting situation because if Steve attacks with this Spectre and Mike chooses to chump with his own Spectre, which he could, want to do, then Steve can reanimate the other Fel Spectre and get double trigger off of the discard.
Oh, wow.
Draining Mike for 4. And, I imagine Steve has some ways in his deck to just end the game out of nowhere from there if he is black-red. So, some interesting stuff going on.
Yeah, Steve's also thinking about just activating that, about reanimating that Runic Armasaur, which is fantastic against Dryad, Greenseeker, and Vampire Neonate.
Definitely. I mean, that'd be drawing in multiple cards, You
see Mike fiddling with his cards in hand. We know one of them is a Lich's Caress. What's Steve trying to work out here?
He's trying to figure out if he can get in for any amount of damage if he makes this all-out attack, because if he can, I think he's trying to see if he can win the game this turn by reanimating Mike's Fel Spectre.
Oh, okay, yep.
But it's going to be hard to do, especially with Mike having Neonate activation. That means that he's going to need to get in for 3, so even if he does engineer some way to get Mike to not block one of these 2-power creatures, it's still not quite good enough. It's 1 point shy.
So in the end, it looks like he's just going to attack with the Fel Spectre. Oh no, here it comes. Sending it. Both of these players have been a little indecisive here on their attacks. Again, these are the win and in rounds. Both players are 5-1. So here we see the Epicure of Blood blocks the token that just got made. And will Mike have the discipline to not put his Fel Spectre in the path of the Fel Spectre?
It's hard to do that. I mean, it feels like blocking the Fel Spectre is the safe play, but Mike's a Bloodhound. He usually sniffs out what the opponent's trying to do. And even if he makes the block, he still has a decent chance of winning the game. It doesn't mean he's completely out of it.
All right, well, in the end, Mike didn't block the... Oh, wait. Not sure.
Yeah, so he wants to activate this Neonate prior to damage.
Okay.
Because that way he can't just like randomly get in response Lightning Strike dude to death.
Right.
And the Epicure of Blood can't just be shocked in response to that activation either to make it smaller.
All right, so there's the Dryad Greenseeker. That gets him a card. Man, Mike's so far ahead on cards. But this game is very, the red-black deck does not have a ton of ways to compete with that. Although I guess the Sigil Sword has been doing a pretty good job of generating virtual cards.
And this is interesting now because Mike's board has grown to the extent where he may, be trying to turn the tide. Though it's scary. Your opponent has cards in their hand. They're red-black. They have 5 untapped mana.
Yeah. So here's Lich's Caress. Oh, by the way, Epicure of Blood.
Mm-hmm. And this is, oh my goodness.
Oh, wow. So it is going to die, but then it's going to come back. It's going to force a discard from Mike Sigrist.
Can drop him back down to 5 here.
Wow. And now Mike needs to line everything up and figure out what he's doing.
Yeah, Mike was trying to see if he had lethal, but he does not. Mike also one shy, even with that Neonate activation with the Epicure.
So Epicure. Yeah, a little extra speed here. All right. So in comes the Vine Mare, the Centaur Courser, and the Epicure of Blood, the 3 biggest creatures from Mike Sigrist. 3 blocks from Steve. Oh. All right, so Mike Sigrist ended up taking that game 1. He won game 1, but I could tell you that Steve Guillermo came by a little while ago, saw that we were not going to get to all the games because the pairings were going up, and he gave us the big thumbs up. He won. He won games 2 and 3. Mike Sigrist is back to the feature match area this round, and we're going to see if he can win it in this last round because, of course, he's at 5 and 2. Players are already seated in the feature match area. We've got some brief messages, and we'll be back for round 8, the last round of day 1 here at Grand Prix Sacramento.